We are keeping a close eye on markets. The Dow up around 400 points already. All three indices once again positive for the year. Tom Steyer, he is the only presidential candidate left in Des Moines, Iowa this morning. He joins us now. Tom, before we get into the details of Iowa and what happened to you last night, let's talk about the markets. Because we both know the markets and the economy are two different things, but the stock market does like President Trump. And when the market looks at what happened in Iowa, it falls right into the president's talking points, where he says Democrats want big government. Look how government works. Democrats are worried about election security. This is a self-inflicted wound. What do you say to that?
I'd say last night was a mess up. I would also say it means this race is wide open, Stephanie, because I think if you look at last night, the one thing that I think everybody now knows is that Joe Biden had a really bad night last night. And that means that it's wide open about who's going to win this race. And it's going to come down to who can put together a diverse coalition of Democratic voters. And that's what I've been trying to do in Nevada and South Carolina. And so I think last night actually just opened this race wide open to see what's going to happen.
But it doesn't mean you had a very good night. I mean, you've had over 100 events in Iowa, and there are still zero official results about you or Joe Biden.
I know that, but I think everybody knows that this is what happened last night. Basically, this race cracked wide open. It's now on to New Hampshire, but it's really on to the real diversity of America and the diversity of the Democratic Party. It's going to be time when a lot of black voters and Latino voters get a chance at the polls. Those are people who I appeal to really well. And I think that's the new race, Stephanie. What happened in Iowa last night was a mistake, but this is going to be a brand new race as of today.
Explain this to me one more time. We still don't know the numbers. So how is that a clear loss for Joe and a wide open race for you? I still don't follow.
I think that all the numbers that we've gotten last night, and you're right, there are no official results, is that Joe had a very bad night last night. And I think what that means is he was the presumptive winner of this whole thing. He was the person who everybody thought was going to walk away with this. And it turns out that's not true. So what
Tom,
that means is
not true.
This race is wide open. There isn't a presumptive.
Joe Biden was not the presumptive winner of the state of Iowa. Where are you getting that?
I think that all along the idea was that he was going to be the person who was going to walk away with this race. And I just don't think that's true after last night, Stephanie. I think what's true now is this race is wide open. It's unclear where it's going. It's going to come down to the very diverse Democratic Party across this country that we go right to New Hampshire and then we go to Nevada and South Carolina. Those are places where I am polling really well. They're very diverse places with lots of Latinos and black voters. And we're going to have a brand new story coming out of today.
All right. Well, speaking of Nevada, you're headed there tonight. And let's talk technical, because they also have a caucus system there. They are using an app that I believe is made by the same company Iowa used. Does that make you nervous?
Well, let's hope they can do a little better job, Stephanie. They've got a couple of weeks to get their act together, and I'm hoping that they'll do a better job.
Is hoping enough? Look at how the president is able to prey upon this. You and I have spoken before about the importance of election security, the fact that the president isn't taking it seriously. He's laughing all the way to the bank this morning. Can you really just hope that the system works itself out in the next few weeks?
Let me put it to you this way. I'm sure that the Democratic officials in Nevada are going to spend an enormous amount of time making sure that the app works. This is a shot across the bow, and we can't have another one of these. I agree with you on that, Stephanie. I completely agree. But I'm sure that they're going to now do, double check and triple check to make sure it works. So I think, I just think last night was a question of opening up this race. That's my big point. But my big point is I think this race just cracked wide open.
Wouldn't you have thought Democratic officials would have checked and double-checked and triple-checked to make sure the system in Iowa was working, to ensure that today they wouldn't be faced with headlines out of President Trump and Brad Parscale saying the system is rigged?
Listen, I don't take put a lot of faith in what Mr. Trump has to say about the Democratic Party. I don't put a lot of faith in what Mr. Trump has to say about just about anything, but certainly not about that. That's just him electioneering. That doesn't bother me.
How about the caucus system? Does the caucus system bother you?
Look, the one thing that I think about the caucus system is it makes it hard for a lot of people to vote. And I'll tell you why. You can't just go when you want to go and check the time. You have to show up for a long period of time when they tell you. So if you're not free at 7 o'clock at night because you have kids, or if you're like my aunt and are 100 years old and can't spend 3 hours, it makes it tough. It puts a premium on organization, and it kind of makes it less possible in terms of full participation by every Democratic voter.
All right, Tom, we're going to leave it there. I know you are anxious to get these official numbers out of the state of Iowa. Good to see you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.